My battery's gonna die soon, so I'm gonna try to make this really, really quick. The topic I'm currently going to discuss has to do with soul ages. So I think a lot of us, well, not a lot of us, some people aren't even familiar with this term, old soul. But if you are, then you're probably an old soul. Because I know, like, younger souls, when you mention it, they either don't know what it is or are not remotely interested in what that term means. Yeah, okay, so I guess you could say, and again, these are just words that the mind uses to categorize things so that it has a reference point, so that it can further analyze and understand something. So, you know, it's just like a topic of conversation that's interesting for me. So, I feel like, I don't know, old soul is someone that supposedly seems like older than they really are or wise beyond their years. And I don't know, I feel like old souls probably feel some type of world weariness. And it's like a tiredness that is not even in relation to the amount of activity that you have. It's just in general, just being world weary. Like, and I think that's why I spend a lot of time alone in solitude or sleeping. Anyhow, so I guess if you're interested in this topic, they have a website called themichaelteachings.com, and it's quite fascinating. And I remember when I came across it, it was very satisfying, and I could resonate with a lot of the information on the site. Um, and tied into it are like energetic signatures, for me, anyways. So I can kind of see where someone is at based on their energetic signature, and I can kind of like gauge whether or not they are a baby soul, a young soul, a mature soul, or an old soul. Um, I feel like babies or like pubescent teenagers, um, baby souls and young souls are in need of constant stimulation because they haven't acquired enough experience to understand or grasp the things that they encounter in life. And so they have this insatiable curiosity to explore and know and consume. They also, like babies, need constant attention. And they tend to be like thrill seekers, major consumers. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's where you're at. It's just, you're just kind of like consuming things in excess because you're trying to experience, you're trying to experiment, you're trying to know what this is all about on a very subconscious level, if that even makes sense. Mature souls kind of know what's going on, you know, and so they're not attention seekers. They're not necessarily, you know, major consumers. They go through life in a more moderate way. You know what I mean? So they're not like excessively spending on unnecessary things and, stuff like that. They still have pursuits and goals and endeavors and achievements that they want to obtain. Um, but they're not nearly as vicarious and charismatic as the younger souls. Younger souls are like the go-getters. They're kind of dramatic, they're flamboyant, they're like I said, like a teenager, just exploring life, exploring different aspects of life. And old souls are like me. I've kind of lost interest in a lot of stuff and just kind of working towards a more simple way of life and um, striving towards minimalism. Like I realized that a lot of the stuff is not necessary. I mean, it's comfortable, it can make life comfortable and it can make life pleasant. But as far as a necessity, I know that everything that I need is inside of me. So, I will enjoy things around me, but I'm not going to actively pursue things, if that even makes sense. And that is why I am not into like, um, how do I say, drawing attention to myself. I'm not really into pursuing too many things because I see life as it is and I see the cycles and I see how everything is in a constant state of change and rebirth and renewal. And you can never really grasp onto anything, you can only move through it graciously. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm making sense. But yeah, I think that's why old souls can seem slow and lazy at times because we're conserving our energy. We're kind of like preparing ourselves for the next stage in evolution, which is not on this earthly realm. I think some old souls tend to migrate towards the earth plane in order to help the younger souls and the baby souls to elevate their consciousness. But I think there's also a lot of old souls that are ready to move on right here. Yeah, so I'm just kind of like here and just kind of like moving through things, but I'm not proactively seeking or chasing or um, trying to acquire more, or not trying to like chase status or, whatever. Like, and that's the thing, like if you think about it seriously, old souls, like they're getting ready to just kind of like lay down and move on. Um, that's what I think. And that's why, like, yeah, we spend a lot of time in solitude and we prefer quiet and silent um, moments, and we're very particular about the company we keep. But yeah, I mean, this term old soul, like I've mentioned it to people who are obviously not older souls, and they just, one, haven't heard the term before, two, can't relate to it, three, don't care. Whereas if you mention old soul to like an old soul or a mature soul, it'll kind of pique their interest because they've acquired enough life experiences to kind of like resonate with that term. Anyhow, mycoteachings.com if you would like to know more. And the way he has it mapped out, it's kind of like you have to go through these progressive stages. So like as a baby soul, like in order to progress to the next phase of being a young soul, there's like 7 different stages that you have to move through. And obviously this is just again a reference point. There's no like you know what I mean? Like it's just something that the mind can refer to understand what this is all about. But it's not static, it's not just so like rigid and this is how it is. It's just kind of like something, like I said, a reference point so you can grasp and understand what this is. And earlier I mentioned energetic signatures, so you can kind of like gauge where a person's at or what kind of soul they are based on their energetic frequency. So like if you look at older souls, we move through life kind of like, you know, like we're strolling through a park. Um, a mature soul is a little bit more active, and then when you go to like the young soul and the baby soul, well, actually, the young soul is probably the most active. Like they're just kind of like beaming with energy, and they have little to no control over their nerves, and they're constantly moving and doing and chasing and running and acquiring and consuming. Baby soul is, everything is just new to them. It's foreign. It's like shiny things, and they're not quite sure what to make of it. So, you know, they're explorative and curious as well, but they're not as, go-getter as the young souls are. Anyhow, I don't know if it made sense. I just thought it was an interesting topic to make a video on. If you learned something, cool. If you didn't learn something, cool. When I make these videos, I don't really expect anyone to agree or disagree with me. It's just my own tiny little fragment of truth, my own tiny little perspective out of the infinite amount of beings in creation. So, like, I'm not here to argue with you if you disagree with me. Like, you are totally entitled to think and believe and see and perceive whatever you want to. So, yeah, if you agree, cool. If you can expand upon this, cool. If you disagree, cool. I respect everyone's point of view, seriously. There is, how do I say? There's a saying that I came across that I thought was beautiful. Um, Something about, I don't know. Forget it. It's gone. Anyhow, blessings to one and all. Have a beautiful, beautiful day or night. Amen.